I'd like to take you back for a moment to 1936. This is Hamburg, Germany. And a sea of men are saluting Hitler. But did anybody notice something unusual that I missed the first time I saw this photograph? How about this guy? A single man stands there, totally defiant, refusing to salute. Now, he had no idea that Hitler's chief propagandist was up in the bleachers taking that photograph of him. So he didn't do it to perform. He didn't do it to perform. Why did he do it? This question has haunted me for the last 15 years and animated my life's work and helped me think about how I'm in relationship to groups. How I'm in relationship to groups. And I had to ask myself the question, would I have done what he did if I was in that position? And the honest answer is, I can't be entirely sure about that. And that haunted me for many years. I mean, I've never been in a predicament like that. I hope you haven't either and never will be. But even on a daily basis, I am subject to forces of coercion and pressures of conformity in my own life, and I often fail. I needed to understand why. So what I'd like to talk to you about today is the tension between the self, yourself, and the crowd, and how not to lose yourself in either one. So I got started in my search for an answer by doing what I like to do. I read a lot of books to try to understand the tribal relationships and how people lose themselves in tribes. And I noticed a pattern very quickly in the books that I started to read. Let me know if you see it. Has anybody read any of these 4 books? How about these 4? Anybody read these books? How about these books? There's a lot of books that have been written in the last 2 decades about how to find your tribe. But they seem to be missing something. The guy in the photograph didn't need any help finding a tribe. He needed to know how to lose his tribe. And there are some times when we need to know when that might need to be us, to have the awareness. So I'd like to talk to you today about a force, a hidden force that's operative in your life right now, that's been operative in mine that I didn't know existed, but once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it, and it changed my life. But to get my answer, I had to go back a little bit further than the books that I just showed you, to an older thinker and some older books, and that thinker was a guy by the name of René Girard. And his key insight into human behavior was not just that human beings are the most imitative creatures in the world. We all know that. You know, babies are imitating. I have a toddler. Babies start imitating as soon as they leave the womb. They imitate their parents. So we all know that. But Girard's key insight is that humans imitate the desires of other people. After our basic needs are met, we don't know what to want. We need other people to show us what to want. If I take my dog for a walk and give him a big bowl of food, he lays down and he goes to sleep. You feed me, well, I don't lay down and go to sleep. I start asking, well, what do I want now? You know, we're very different. We want things, and we don't know what to want, and we subtly look for help from other people. So Girard's insight was that this imitative behavior continues in adulthood, but it's subconscious. We don't know that we're doing it. And when we're not aware of a force that powerful, it can come into our lives and lead us to look to groups or to other people, imitating them without knowing that we're doing it, and lose ourselves. Girard called this mimesis, which comes from the Greek word to imitate, and he called the imitation of desire mimetic desire. You know, we want things because other people want them. he said. And to stop for a second and think about it. I didn't think about living van life until I saw somebody doing it on my Instagram feed. The thought had never crossed my mind before. And if you're the only one that wants something, doesn't that make you a little bit uncomfortable? Like you want somebody else to want it too. Otherwise, you start to wonder if you're maybe wanting the wrong thing. This happens all the time. It's mimesis operating in our lives. And Girard, although he died in 2015, I think he predicted the rise of social media. Why? Because he saw it for what it is, a giant mimetic machine. We're not addicted to the device in our pocket. We're hooked on the people inside of the phone and what they want. So what does a phone do? Social media gives us access to quite literally billions of models of desire on a daily basis. I can now see what somebody on the other side of the world wants for breakfast this morning. And these little things affect us more than we realize, more than we would like to admit. And they can get us off track from our real goals and vocation. Girard had one more key insight that the Find Your Tribe books didn't give me. And that's that he saw that, yes, we want to belong. We naturally seek tribes. We're social creatures. But humans have a second drive that's equally as strong, and that's the drive to differentiate. So we want to be like other people, but not too much. We are flattered when somebody imitates us, but not too much. You get a haircut and wear an outfit into the office, and the very next day, somebody else comes in and gets the same exact haircut and wears the same clothes. Freaks you out. So we're in this constant tension between imitating and trying to differentiate ourselves, and we don't even know that we're doing it. And when we're unaware of that, we tend to try to differentiate in really silly ways. I won't make you look at that anymore. Now, my own personal experience of this dynamic, when I really learned the most about this phenomenon of mimesis and mimetic desire, was when I, at the age of 29, that's me, left behind my companies and the startup world and entered seminary on the pathway to becoming a Catholic priest. Now, they sent me to Rome, and I lived in a massive building with 250 other guys that dressed exactly like me, that all had the same goals. A great community, some of the best, most mature men I've ever met. It was healthy. They cared about my emotional, personal, spiritual growth. But let me tell you, that's when things really got hard, because we had so much alike. We shared so much with each other. It was a cauldron of mimesis for me. I don't even know where I am in that picture. I'm in that picture. I know I am. I was there on the day it was taken, but I literally can't find myself, so let me know if you see me. But it's symbolic of what happened to me in that community. And I realized this. What Girard said about mimetic desire and mimesis applies to other people. Think of somebody close to you in your life, could be even a family member, but it also applies to groups as well. We are in different kinds of relationships with different groups. Sometimes we're totally detached from them, and we have a clear delineation between ourselves and the group. I don't think I'm supposed to actually do that, but we step outside of the group and we're detached. And other times, we're just right immersed in the middle of it, totally immersed, so that we begin to take on its shape, its behaviors, and we can even lose ourselves. And Girard said, actually, D is when mimesis is the strongest and the hardest to be aware of, because it's internal to us. We're right standing in the middle of it. That's when it's the hardest to spot. And I found myself in seminary going back and forth between A and D for the most part. because they're the easiest. There's not a whole lot of tension in either one of those relationships to the group. What's really hard are B and C. To stand in the tension between the self and the group, and to contribute my solid sense of self to the community without either getting lost in it or without trying to run away. So what I'd like to share with you now is really the fruit of 15 years of my research and thinking and exploring this issue to understand how we can be a bit more like B and C when necessary. So think about your relationship to some group in your life right now and think about what kind of a relationship do you have with it. And I've identified a lot of what I like to call anti-mimetic tactics, ways to kind of be in healthier relationship to communities, even healthy communities, where we still are ourselves and we don't lose ourselves inside of it, because that can happen even in the best groups, even in the best. So I only have time to share 3 with you in the time that I have left today, but they're 3 of the most important, and I hope that you can take these out of the room with you and apply them in your life right away. The first one is very simple. It's introduce tension where you need to. Because mimesis removes tension. It's very reactionary. We do it without even knowing that we're doing it. And tension is a sign of life. Only dead fish float downstream. It takes a live fish to be able to swim upcurrent. And in particular, in your relationship with technology and with social media. So think of technology, and particularly social media, as a mimetic machine. And if it is a mimetic machine, you have to intentionally take some anti-mimetic action. And you can do that on 2 levels. The first level is with the device itself. You have to introduce tension into that relationship in whatever way works for you. I have a good friend who literally leaves his iPhone in a drawer on a separate floor of his house from his home office, so that if he wants to go use it, he just has to do a little bit more work to get there, and he might think twice. But more importantly, recognize the mimesis in yourself when you're actually using the technology in relationships with other people. Pause for a moment when you see the message or you receive the email, and know that it's probably mimesis that gives you the instinctual response to mimic the tone and the style. We get the passive-aggressive email, we want to be passive-aggressive right back. So skip a beat, take a moment, and decide to react anti-mimetically. Now, once you know that this is happening, you can take the beat that you need. Number 2 has to do with the truth. Because I submit that the truth is anti-mimetic. Even a simple statement or sentence can be anti-mimetic. Speak the truth when you need to. The problem with lies is that they operate and they gain power through mimesis. We all know that lies spread far faster than facts and truth on social media. But think of lies as mimetic. There's a reason why in our culture casting the first stone has such significance. Now, what's different about the first stone? What's different about the first stone or the first lie? It's the only one without a model. The second one has 1 model, the third one has 2 models, and it gets easier and easier and easier until somebody has the courage to reverse that mimetic momentum and cycle. If necessary, use words, but you can speak the truth in gestures. This guy's name was August Landmesser. And he got to the point that he did because 2 years before this photograph was taken, he fell in love with a Jewish woman, got engaged to her. And that put into perspective the truth of the community that he was a part of, to the point where he'd had enough when he got to this picture. Now, what he found was something transcendent to the crowd that he was in, something outside of it. He found a model, he found love outside of the group that put it into perspective for him. And that's the third anti-mimetic tactic. Because the goal here is not just to lose your tribe or to move away from something. The goal is to move towards someone, to move toward the real and the concrete, because mimesis thrives in abstractions when we're not grounded in the real. Who is the person today for you that you can move toward? For me, as I've been embroiled in my own mimesis, kind of a never-ending struggle, it was my dad, who has advanced Alzheimer's disease. And when my mom passed away, I became his sole caregiver as an only child. And that immediately put into perspective all of the silly mimetic things that I've been concerned about up until that point, when I took over as his caregiver. So it's easy to recognize mimesis in other people and in the world and in the news and on social media, but it's a lot harder to recognize it in yourself. So my hope for all of you today is that you practice introducing tension where needed, you speak the truth in an anti-mimetic way, and you move towards somebody. Somebody needs to be anti-mimetic in this world. And when you do that, you will learn and discover a lot about yourself, and you will change the crowd along with you. Thank you.